March 6, 1945. The once majestic city of Cologne now lay in ruins, buildings crumbled like stale bread, and smoke blanketed the skyline. But amid the chaos, a battle unlike any other was about to unfold. Not between armies, but between two steel titans, one German, one American. One defending its homeland, one pressing toward final victory. The duel would last mere minutes, but its echoes would thunder across history. In the shadow of a cathedral gutted by bombs, two tanks would meet in a deadly ballet of fire and fate. Only one would emerge alive. Sergeant Robert Early sat inside his Sherman tank, Thunderbolt 7, staring at the twisted skyline of Cologne. His unit, the 3rd Armored Division, nicknamed the Spearhead, had pushed through the Rhineland with fire and steel. But now, they were in the heart of a dying city, and the danger wasn't over. Cologne had become a trap of shadows and rubble, and they knew a German Panther tank had been spotted lurking near the cathedral, guarding the last bridge over the Rhine. That bridge was their gateway east. The Panther, sleek, sloped, deadly, was no ordinary enemy. Its 75mm high-velocity gun could slice through Shermans like paper. The Americans called it the Beast. And it had already killed 2 tanks earlier that day. Robert's crew, Private Jenkins, the gunner, Corporal Tex Dalton, the driver, and Loader Murphy, knew the stakes. They'd fought through France together, survived the Ardennes, and now they were here, at the gates of the Reich. "I see it," Jenkins whispered. Robert lifted his binoculars. At the far end of a street lined with scorched shops and broken streetcars, the Panther crept forward, its barrel swiveling, hunting. A final duel was inevitable. There was no retreat. One would fall. "Tex, slow roll. Keep us tight to the right buildings," Robert said, heart pounding. The Sherman edged forward, its engine growling low. From within the tank, everything was metal and tension. Jenkins adjusted the sights, scanning for movement. Panthers angled. "We won't penetrate the front," Jenkins muttered. "We need side armor. We'll bait it." The German Panther stood like a predator among rubble, near the shadow of the cathedral. Its commander, Feldwebel Wilhelm Faust, peered through his periscope. He had grown up in Cologne. This wasn't just a battle. It was personal. He knew the Americans were coming. And he had one goal: stop them here. Robert's Sherman made its move, darting out briefly into the open, then back behind cover. The Panther's turret swung toward the motion. Boom! A shot slammed into the wall beside the Sherman, bricks exploding. The Panther had fired. "Now!" Robert barked. Tex punched the throttle. The Sherman roared from behind a broken truck, racing to the left to circle behind the cathedral ruins. The Panther began turning, its slow turret grinding to follow. "Faster, Tex. Jenkins, ready main gun." Jenkins held his breath, aligning the reticle. The Sherman skidded into position, revealing the Panther's side, just barely. "Fire!" Boom! The shell struck the Panther's side armor and bounced off. "No penetration!" Jenkins cried. The Panther fired in return. "Carrique!" The round struck a wall inches from the Sherman, shaking the entire street. Dust choked the air. "Flank more! We need a clean shot!" Robert shouted. Murphy loaded another shell, sweat pouring. They moved again, ducking through smoke, edging closer. The Sherman turned a corner, and suddenly the Panther was there, no more than 60 feet away, its barrel aimed directly at them. "Reverse!" Robert screamed. But the Panther fired. The shell struck the Sherman's lower hull. The tank jolted violently, tracks grinding as smoke hissed up from the floor. "We're hit, but we're not dead," Tex roared. "Loader, give me one, right now." Jenkins yelled. "AP shell in." Murphy shouted. The Panther, confident in the kill, was slowly backing up, exposing more of its vulnerable flank. "Do it now, Jenkins," Robert growled. Boom! The Sherman's second shell punched clean into the Panther's side, igniting sparks. Inside the Panther, Wilhelm Faust screamed at his driver, "Rotate! Rotate!" But it was too late. "Load heat!" Robert ordered. "Loaded! Finish it!" Boom! The third shot exploded through the Panther's engine compartment. Flames erupted from the rear. The massive tank rocked, black smoke curling out of its vents. "Bail out!" Faust yelled to his crew. A hatch flew open, and 2 German crewmen tumbled out. One was ablaze. Robert watched grimly. "Hold fire!" The Panther's cannon drooped. The beast was dead. Silence fell across the street. Just the distant rumble of other battles echoed through the city. Tex let out a breath. "Holy hell, we did it!" "Damn right," Jenkins said, hands trembling. In 5 minutes, the duel was over. But its legend would last decades. Later that day, a war correspondent named Jim Bates, embedded with the 3rd Armored, arrived to see the smoking wreck of the Panther. He had filmed the duel from a distant rooftop, capturing the deadly dance frame by frame. His footage would later air across the U.S. and Allied nations. For the first time, civilians saw what tank warfare looked like on city streets. The image of Robert Early's Sherman standing before the burning Panther, with the cathedral in the background, became iconic, symbolizing the final crumbling of Nazi power. Back at base, Colonel Dawson approached Robert. "Hell of a shot, Sergeant. You boys saved a lot of lives today." "We just did our job," Robert replied quietly. That night, Robert sat on the tank's hull, staring at the cathedral silhouette against the fire-tinted sky. "Think it's over soon?" Jenkins asked. Robert nodded. "It has to be." 6 weeks later, Hitler was dead. The war was nearly over. The duel in Cologne was one of the last great armored confrontations of the war. And for the men inside those steel beasts, it wasn't about glory. It was survival, duty, and raw courage. Wilhelm Faust, the Panther commander, survived the war as a prisoner. Years later, he met Robert Early at a veterans event in Germany. They shook hands, former enemies now bound by respect. Because war isn't always about victory. Sometimes, it's about remembering those 5 minutes that change your life forever.